of mind in the middle of
Hello,
the wash
Packer
of trying
fans,
to
wherever
sack
you may be.
Lamar
It's time for
Jackson
another
to
edition
grab
of
the
Pack
ball out of the
Attack
air
Cast as we
and
get
come up
you
with
ready
the
for
interception.
Packers versus
And
Bears.
joining Julius
Very
Peppers is
exciting
the only
week.
player
We've
since
got some
'82
news
with
and
9
notes, some
career
injury updates
interceptions
from Matt
and
LaFleur,
100 or more
and
career
also
sacks
some
coming
updates
after that
on
three-game
the
absence
future
due
of
to
Matt
a
LaFleur
collapsed
and
lung.
Brian Gutekunst
That guy
as
was out
your
there with Highsmith
general
and the rest of
manager.
that
So let's
defense
get right
in support
into it.
of a run
Before
game
we get into
that has
the topics
Kenneth
of the day, I
Gainwell
want to
grabbing
thank everyone
a
again for their
team-high
support.
8 catches for
We've now
64
reached
yards
15,000
and
subs
Jalen
in our
Warren
first
coming up with
season.
4.7
Our
yards
original goal
clip.
for the first year of this
And then, of course,
podcast was to
there's
get to
Aaron Rodgers.
5,000
To whom
subs, and we've already gotten to 15,000 before
Coming into
the
this
start
season,
of the playoffs. So
there
we're
was a
very
ton of
excited about
skepticism,
that.
and rightfully so.
One more
Certainly
goal for
coming
you
off
guys.
of 2
We always
years
got to
in
move
New York,
the
one
goalposts,
completely
as they
lost
say.
due to an Achilles,
So can
another
we
year
get
completely
to
lost due to it being
17,000
him coming
before
off of the Achilles
last Packers
and the Jets
game
being
of the
the
2025
Jets.
season?
Putting it all together.
So,
he was what appeared to
goal
be
is now
a Hail Mary
17,000
attempt for
before
the Pittsburgh Steelers, who,
on
as
the
we all
last
know,
whistle of
waited
the Packers
quite a long time
2025
for
season.
Rodgers to
Could that
clear
be this
himself
week? Hopefully not. Could it be the
of
Super
his
Bowl?
mind,
I'd
his
love to see
body,
that
and of
happen.
course whatever was
But
going on
either
in his
way,
life
can we
to
get to
join the Steelers to the point where
before
the guy
end
who
of
he
the
strode off the
Packers
field
season?
with,
Let's see if we can
with
get
Mike
there.
Tomlin
Hit
every
that
single year. Remember,
subscribe
Cam
button.
Hayward was
If
like,
you've already
hey,
done so, please
you
hit
want
the
to join
like
the
button because
Steelers,
that helps other people
basically pound
discover this
sand. Remember he said
content.
something like that?
Let's
Didn't
get
like the
into news and
characterization
notes
of it.
for the
Post
Packers
and
versus
so
Bears,
Rodgers
part
finally
3.
does join.
Got some
Makes
interesting
every start
active
except the one that you
roster
pretty much
changes
think
today.
prior to
Desmond Ritter,
the season,
formerly
he would
of the
say
Detroit
that's
Lions,
the one
and added
game
to the
I don't
practice
want to
squad
miss
last
outside of the
week
Packers
while
would
we
be
were away,
at the Bears.
was elevated to the active roster.
Makes
So he
every
would be
start,
the number 3
has them in
emergency
position
quarterback
after
for
the Ravens
Packers
went on a
on
5-game win streak
Saturday.
to beat
That's
the Ravens,
really
go on a
interesting,
3-game win streak of their own,
because I think
and
the Packers learned
overcome the loss of DK
from that one
Metcalf
game
in the
against
final
the Bears
2 games of the year.
where
because DK Metcalf
where
loses his
Jordan Love was
composure
knocked
and
out of
mind
the
with a
game,
blue-haired
then
Lions fan who
we
he
had
knew when he
Malik
approached him
Willis come
had
in.
it in for
He played
DK.
well, then
and
he
I don't
hurt
want to
his
say
shoulder.
anymore because
He was
I fear
questionable
litigation.
whether he could come
and
back
on top
into the
of
game.
all
He
of
ended
that,
up coming back into the game.
on
But I
top of
think
all
this
of
is
that
an interesting
comes
note.
the responsibility of
once in
being a Pittsburgh
first
Steelers
of all,
quarterback in the era where
June, I
Steelers
think,
fans
is gone.
have
I think he's going to be cut.
Maybe, I don't want to say
with this
collectively,
move.
but a large
And
share
Desmond
of them, maybe
Ritter
the
is
majority
a
of them.
much
But
better
it feels
number
like
3
whenever I
quarterback
cape for this
to
man,
have on the
a majority
active
of you
roster for
don't
the
like when
playoffs
I cape for
than
Mike Tomlin.
Clayton
You're ready
Tune.
for the
Tune was
action
obviously limited
of the Rooney
last
family
week because of the
that you have
players
been
that were
waiting
playing,
for
but it was
because
very clear
it's
that
just
Tune
not going to
isn't
work.
ready to be
And at the end of the day,
an NFL
who are the
quarterback,
champs
in my opinion.
of the AFC North? Who
Whereas we've
is
seen Desmond
coming
Ritter
into the
with
playoffs
the Lions in game
off of
action,
his 9th
and he's actually
division
had
title
the
of his
ability
first ballot Hall
to
of
do
Fame
some of the
career?
stuff similar
Who is
to
making
Malik Willis,
the
at
12th
least with his
playoff
legs.
appearance of his
So,
first ballot Hall of Fame
I
career,
think this
tied
is
with
a
Favre and
significant
yes,
improvement
Big
for the
Ben
roster
behind
for
only
the
Peyton Manning and
playoffs.
Tom Brady all time.
And it
That
also
would
gives
be
Desmond
Aaron
Ritter,
Rodgers.
Desmond
And the
Ritter
reason
an
why you go get him
opportunity to
is
in
exactly
practice
what we
kind of
saw
audition
in the fourth quarter,
for the
and
opportunity
exactly
to
what
be
nobody
the
thought we
number
would
2
see again
quarterback
in the
for
fourth quarter
Packers
of a
next
winner-go-home
year.
game
We
from
know
Aaron
Ritter
Rodgers.
knows the division.
That is to go 11 for
He's
14
seen game
for
action with the
133
Lions in
passing
the
yards,
past,
a touchdown, and a
he
passer
has
rating of
a lot of physical
130.1
upside, a
with the
lot of
season on the
physical
line. The
tools that do
133 fourth
remind
quarter
me of
yards, by
Malik
the way,
Willis when
the
we
most
picked
for
him up
Rodgers
2
in
years
any
ago.
quarter
So
this
I
season.
think this
He
is
saved it
both
for the
a
last moment. And for that
precaution
play
for
to
the
Calvin
playoffs
Austin,
in the event
this is
that
him breaking it down. You tell
Jordan
me how many
Love gets
quarterbacks
knocked
can
out
break it down quite
and Malik
like
Willis
this.
gets knocked out.
Multiple
You've
times
got
in
a
the huddle,
third
I'm asking him on
emergency
various
quarterback
plays, what
that
do you want on the
does
backside,
have
what do you want on the
NFL
backside?
experience
And he wouldn't give me a
in the
straight
event
answer.
of a worst case
And
scenario.
on this-
So I
on
think
this
it was a really
particular,
smart move by the Packers
huddle
to
conversation,
elevate Desmond Ritter
I
to
said,
the
"What do you want,
active
Cal?"
roster
He said,
for probably the balance of the
somebody to my
playoffs. I
right,
think
I
it
don't
makes a
know if it
lot
was
of
McCormick
sense.
or
The
Pat
Packers have been
said
making
something about
lots
it.
of
Hey, just go
moves
cook 'em or something.
with all of our
So I
injury
said, "All right,
issues to
Cal,
make
you
sure
really should go back there."
they turn over the
Well, it seems
roster as
really
much
digging
as
the
possible
three-man combination
to
that
give
we
the
worked and
Packers
had
the
success
best
with most
chance
of the
of
night.
advancing in the playoffs.
Was
So
kind of my first
very good to
thought,
see
but I just
that.
peeked back to the
In
left and
addition
saw
to that,
number 3
the
slip,
Packers
and,
today
you know,
also
to give
brought
me
back
touchdown,
receiver
but I'm
Julian
proud
Hicks
of
to the
Calvin,
practice
and,
squad.
line
and
really gave me a
Messiah
lot of time all day.
Swinson to the practice
they played really
squad.
well.
That's Aaron Rodgers
Julian
breaking
Hicks
it down. That's
was
why you go ahead and
an
get
active
him.
participant.
Which is
He
what
was a
Tomlin
cut
said after the
in
game.
Training camp, he was
And
cut down.
that
at the
is how the Steelers
roster cut down
head
this
into the
past
playoffs.
year.
And I understand.
Messiah
I'm
Swinson
sure I know what you're thinking.
was on the
Maybe
roster
potentially
in 2024,
whatever he's thinking.
and he
Hey,
was cut
the
by
kid from the Ravens should have made the
Panthers
kick.
last week.
But at the end of the
Swinson
day,
is a really timely pickup.
they were the ones
because
that
he's a
needed to
great,
come from behind to
very
win it,
good blocking
because
tight
the
end,
Steelers took
and
the
the
lead
Packers only have
late
two active
in a game,
tight
in a
ends on the
season,
roster right
that
now.
a lot of people
So
were
I fully
skeptical
expect
could
Messiah
period
Swinson
happen at
to
all.
be elevated
And they are going into the
to the
playoffs
active
against the
roster
stout
for
Houston
Saturday's
Texans team
game, and having
coming into
a
their house on Monday Night
dedicated
Football. I
blocking
cannot wait
tight end available
all of
on
that.
game day is going to be very important.
But got to
because
give it
we
up.
know
Pittsburgh
that's
Steelers get it done in a
something
game of the
that
year.
two
Again,
active tight ends
Rodgers
that the
doing what he
Packers
did in
have,
the fourth quarter,
their strong suit
overcoming,
is
may I
not
repeat again,
blocking,
a
whereas
future
Swinson
first
is
ballot
a
Hall of
very
Fame running
above
back
average
doing
blocker.
what he did
So that could be a
in Derrick
big
Henry to the
dividend
tune
for the
of
Packers on
126
Saturday.
yards,
So we're gonna
and
watch that
Lamar
very
Jackson
well.
finding his MVP
The
form
Packers also
just in
added
time to throw
receiver
two touchdown
Keyshawn
passes in the
Johnson
fourth
to the
quarter of
practice
50 or
squad as
more
well.
yards, and
He
becoming
is
the
a
first quarterback
new
in history
face
to do
the
it to
Packers.
lose.
But Julian Hicks
That's what's going on.
Hey, you
should
made it
know
all
the
the way to the
offense
end.
from
Thanks for that. Check us
training
out
camp.
every single day
We'll have
streaming
to brush
live
up,
on Disney
obviously.
Plus and the
And I
ESPN
think
app,
having
12 to
two
3
extra
Eastern.
bodies at
This
wide
Avengers
receiver
Doomsday
is a
plot leak
smart move
sounds
for the Packers.
insane. I
I
particularly
think
like what it
Julian
says
Hicks,
about the
Swinson,
Scarlet
and
Witch,
Johnson could
Doctor
also play a
Strange,
role on special teams
Kangs,
if
multiple,
need be.
plural, all of them,
It's always great
and
to have
Doctor Doom
extra
himself.
tight end
Now,
bodies for your special
like
teams
all
squad.
leaks, take it with a grain of
So we're gonna
salt.
watch
This
that very
was
carefully.
actually sent to me on X, which
Matt
took me to
LaFleur today in his
MCU
press conference
verse,
gave us some
and they even
updates
claim that
on some
this is a
injuries.
unconfirmed anonymous
Zach
leak
Tom
posted to
is
Reddit.
expected
But
to
here's
be
the thing:
back
about
against the
70% of
Bears.
this,
He's missed
as
the
I read
last
through it,
3 weeks.
it's been
So it's gonna
reported
be
already.
great to have
So I
Zach
would say about
Tom back
70% of
at
this
right
is actually
tackle.
things that is basically confirmed
not only for
to
the
actually
playoffs,
happen in
but
Avengers
also the
Doomsday.
Packers are gonna have
And
some
a lot of
pretty
people who have
big
read this already
offensive
actually say
line
that this is
decisions to
pretty
make,
dark, but I actually think that's the
in
direction
the offseason
that Marvel
whenever
is
that
going to go. And
starts.
Infinity War was dark
and
as well.
One of
I
those
mean, the
key
ending of Infinity
decisions
War
for Zach
was a
Tom,
pretty dark
obviously, he
ending,
just
and
signed an
I think that's how
extension.
Avengers
He's gonna
Doomsday
be
is
here
going
for
to
the
end
long
as well.
term.
But of course, like
But
all
a
leaks,
lot
take
of
it with a
people,
grain of salt.
including
But I do
myself,
think it's
believe Zach
pretty
Tom
interesting.
could
You'll
be
have to
moved
let me know
to
what you
left
think.
tackle
Let's dive
in
into
the
it.
offseason
So
as they
according
try
to
to,
the leak, the true origin of the
juggle
multiverse
offensive
collapse
line with
isn't
players that are
Kang,
gonna be leaving
it's
in
Steve
the
Rogers.
offseason.
Again,
So
this is
it
one
would
of
be
those
really
things that
good
we've heard a lot
for
about
Zach
this already.
Tom to
This
have a
is
healthy
particularly
and
why
solid
Doom
playoff
is
season,
after Steve Rogers. And
to help them make some of those
it seems like the
decisions
Russo
in the
brothers kind of
offseason.
did have a plan to bring
Malik
back
Willis is
Steve
expected
all
to
along,
be the
Chris
number
Evans
2
all along,
quarterback this
because it
week.
does seem like if
But
they didn't have the plan
with the
before, they have a
addition
really
of
good plan
Ritter
for it now. And
to the
obviously, he's
active
going to
roster,
play a big role in the
that
movie
still
because
leads me
of
to
him
believe
going
that
back in
Malik
time.
Willis
It
is
clearly
not
did something.
100%,
So according to this leak,
and
the
it makes sense to
I
have
guess
Ritter
the origin of
available
the
as
collapse
the
of the
number 3
multiverse is
quarterback.
Steve
But
Rogers,
I
which
do
that's
expect
pretty big.
Malik Willis will be
But when
back
Steve went back in time at the end of
number 2
Endgame, he
quarterback
chose to
this
stay
week.
there. He
But he still
unknowingly
has a
triggered a
shoulder
chain of
injury to
incursions
his
across
throwing
realities.
arm.
Every
So,
altered timeline began crashing
outside of
into
the
others.
offseason,
And who was the biggest
he could
victim
re-injure that
out of
on
Steve
any given
Rogers'
play,
chain of
because it
events that he
takes,
set off? Victor
typically
Von Doom.
a month or so. And,
So
and,
Victor Von
Malik
Doom
Willis has not
seems to
had a
be
month
sort of a king
for a
of
shoulder
his
injury
time.
to get fully
It says this version of Doctor
so we're gonna
Doom,
watch that
Robert
very
Downey
closely.
Jr.'s Doctor Doom, of course,
Donatavian
comes from
Wicks
a
is still in the
31st
concussion
century
protocol.
timeline
Hopefully
where he
he'll clear
ruled
it before
Latveria as a
Saturday.
monarch.
But,
So he had
as
literally
Matt
a
LaFleur
kingdom
really
at his home in
emphasized,
Latveria. This
the
is something that we've heard
concussion
before as
protocol
well.
is
He
what
was
it
married
is.
to
There's no way
Sue,
to rush it.
not Richards,
And each
not Storm,
player
but
handles
Sue Von
concussions
Doom.
differently.
Since
So,
they were married.
hopefully
He was married
Wicks
to
will
Sue
be
Von Doom.
available for
He had
Saturday.
two children.
Not
This is actually
only
this is a
for
little new. 2 children,
wide
Franklin and
receiver
Valeria.
action, but they could probably
He already
use
discovered
extra
the
bodies for
multiverse,
special
and
teams.
since it's
And
you know
Wicks is
in the
a-
future,
is
that makes a lot of
great
sense, and
guy
it's
to
actually
have
taken a lot
as
from
an additional
Kang's story
returner,
in the comics.
on
Kang's
special
actually from the
So we're gonna
future.
see what happens
From the
there.
31st century, he discovers
as for
time travel, and
practice
at that
this
time,
week,
time
Matt
travel
LaFleur gave us
is
an
illegal.
update.
But he discovers the time
Tuesday
travel
was gonna
machine
be a
and goes
jog
back in time,
through,
and that's the start of
technically
Kang
a
the Conqueror.
walkthrough, but
He actually
he
goes
said
back
we'd
in
be
time to
doing-
ancient
be
Egypt. The
doing it
Fantastic
at a
Four defeat him, and that's
jogging
how
pace
Kang
as they
actually starts to
rev
hate
up
the
for
Fantastic
the
Four.
game on
But
Saturday.
actually replacing
You
him
have to
with Doom in
remember,
this scenario
the
in the
Packers did have
MCU
a
would make a
number
lot
of
of sense
players
as
who
well.
have
And
sat out
I have believed this
both
entire time
the
that
game against
Marvel
the
is
Ravens
basically
and the game against the
replaced
Packers.
Kang with
So
Doom and is
getting
going to transfer
players up
basically
to
a lot
game
of what Kang
shape
was
is
doing to
probably
Doom and
why
saying
he's
it was Doom
calling
doing.
the walkthrough
So he ruled
the
Latveria
jog
as a monarch. He was married to Sue Von Doom, and they had 2 children, Franklin and Valeria. He already had discovered the multiverse, but the incursions caused by Steve Rogers wiped out his entire universe. So his family, his wife, his kids, his kingdom, his world, his entire universe gone because of Steve Rogers. Again, this is something that we've heard before, so this checks out already. And I do like this. I really, really do like this. And I like this idea as well. There's a sentence here that says, he is a villain that is not, your typical mustache twirling villain, but he is a grieving god. And I actually really like that point. And we've recently heard a lot about Doom tricking the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, everybody, to making them think that he's actually the good guy. This puts a good twist on it. Or this explains it in a very good way, what's about to come up. So we just heard this the other day. The movie allegedly opens from the point of view of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's universe collapsing. So the sky tears apart, another Earth comes into play. That Earth is experiencing an incursion with another Earth. So as everything is collapsing from the Earth, right at the end, a portal opens up and someone from the TVA takes Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and saves him. This is kind of cool. It says no heroic music, no victory, just loss. And that's like the opening scene. Very dark, very somber. But I do believe to really kind of show the threat that is ahead for Avengers Doomsday, not just Doom, but the multiverse collapsing. This is a good way to show it, and it puts Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in right away. So I like that as well. And again, this was reported the other day, so this checks out. So here's where it gets pretty intense here. It says Doom slaughters the Council of... It says Doom, but I think they mean Kang here. Slaughters the Council of Kangs, which I really hope happens. I actually hope that we get that Ant-Man and the Wasp post-credit scene that has all of those Kangs there in that stadium, and then Doom just shows up and says, hey, thanks for all gathering in one place for me, so you made it easy for me, and then boom, kills them all. Something like that. I really hope something like that happens. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. So it says, he uses the fact that he looks like Tony Stark to manipulate heroes, which I think makes total sense, and that is definitely something Dr. Doom would do. He revives Wanda Maximoff using Franklin Richards. We have heard a report about this in the past as well, and I've really liked this, especially because in the Fantastic Four First Steps at the end, Sue Storm dies, and her son, Franklin Richards, brings her back. We already know he has that power. So if the Scarlet Witch is indeed dead in the MCU, Franklin Richards bringing her back is, I think, a pretty dang good way to do that. And I actually think Dr. Doom being the one to do it, via Franklin Richards, is a really good angle, because then the Scarlet Witch probably thinks that Doom is good. But then he promises her something. According to this leak, he promises Wanda her children on Battleworld. So I think basically where this is going is Doom. He's already realized the multiverse is doomed. He likes working no pun intended. And he has already in his mind formulated his plan that basically says, I have to rule over everything. Everybody's screwing it up. The Kang guy screwed it up. He tried to do some stuff. It didn't work. I'm the only one who can truly save the multiverse. And the only way to do that is to actually just rule over one world, put a bunch of universes into one battle world, and I will rule over it. It'll be my way, and I'll control everything, and that's how we'll have peace in the multiverse. Well, we won't have a multiverse. It'll just be one thing, but we'll all live, which is basically what happens in the comics to an extent. But he promises her children at least on Battleworld, is what this says. And I like that. So he would revive her. Again, we've heard this report in the past. And then he would say, hey, I'm the guy who brought you back.
Now, one thing
I need your
that
help.
was not
if you help
reported
me,
by Adam Scheffler,
I will give you your children on Battleworld. You can finally be with them. And keep in mind, Vision is returning in Vision Quest.
Go to Jeff Hafley.
The idea that Wanda could finally get her whole family,
increase in
obviously really compelling to her.
Board for Jeff
so it goes on and it says only 3 Earths remain. Earth
now,
616, which is our main sacred timeline, Earth 828, the Fantastic Four universe, and Earth 10005, the Fox universe. Doom sends Doombots to attack the X Mansion, and we have heard that they're Sentinels, and even in the Cyclops trailer, we can see giant legs in the background, and they look like Sentinels, and it makes sense that they would be Sentinels. So maybe the leak thinks they're Doombots, but they're actually Sentinels, or maybe we all think the Sentinels, they're Sentinels, and then they could actually be Doombots. Maybe that
but we'd like
image,
to give
maybe
you
that scene that we're seeing from the teaser is actually in the past. We don't know yet.
That
But
gives Jeff
what we do know
Hafley
is the X-Mansion gets
another
attacked,
reason
and it does seem like it's going to be
reconsider
Sentinels or
a
Doombots.
coaching
Either or,
opportunity
the
that
result is
might
kind of
not
the
be
same.
the best coaching opportunity,
And this
stay
frames
with the Packers
the
for next year.
MCU
So I'd
or
like
the
to see
sacred
the
timeline
Packers
as the
not
aggressor.
only look
So
at
Doom
renegotiating
promises
with
Magneto
Matt
a
LaFleur and
mutant
Brian
nation,
Gutekunst,
Krakoa,
but
on
also
Battleworld.
proactively going
And he
to
gains their trust. He gains
Jeff
the trust of
Hafley
Professor
and
X.
say, look, if
This
you
leads to
stay,
the Avengers
we're
versus
gonna
the
give
X-Men.
you a raise. Because I
Which
think
is very
that would
interesting. This
be
is a
to
little
the Packers'
bit of a
benefits.
different twist to
So
it.
that's going to do it
Before,
for this edition of the
what
Pack
I
Attack
thought
Cast.
was
We
Doom
went
was going
over
to attack
injury
the X-Men, and
updates.
then the Avengers
We
were
went
going to show
over
up, and
the
they would basically
possibility
perceive
of
them as
Matt
hostile
LaFleur and
because the
Brian
last person who
Gutekunst
showed up,
getting
Doom,
extensions,
was hostile. And of course, this
and
isn't
some
confirmed,
changes to
but
the
this is actually a cool way to do it. And
we didn't
again,
get the injury
recently,
report
just
today,
over the last week, we've heard
but
that
before I
Doom
recorded
is
this,
going
but I don't
to,
expect
at least
a big
for,
change since they were doing
40%
a
of the movie,
walkthrough
50% of the
today.
movie, half of it
And
is going to try and
tomorrow's
portray
update
himself
is
as the
gonna be a
hero,
big update
which
for the
actually
week
we've heard from multiple
after a
sources
padded
at this point in
practice.
time that's what it is.
So we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Checks out.
We're
Checks
gonna
out.
go
So
through
we get the
the
Avengers
news
versus
and
the
notes from
X-Men,
the padded practice,
Sentry
the injury
versus
report,
Professor X, which is
any
another report that
additional
we've
news
heard.
we have from the
Professor X
Packers,
wins.
and then
Doom
we're gonna start
steals
to dive
Cerebro.
into the ways that the Packers
This is
can
interesting
actually
because
beat the
at the
Bears
wrap
on
party
Saturday
for Avengers
and
Doomsday,
head to
there
the
were
Seahawks
pictures on
the
display
following week.
of
So as
Cerebro.
always, go Pack
Like,
Go, and we'll have an
people there
update
were
for you
taking pictures
tomorrow
with Cerebro.
after
They
the
were
padded
actually
practice. Talk to
showing
you then.
cast members